I think it's a freedom thing, right? I think it goes back to sort of America at its core. I think the ability to get in your car and drive wherever you want to go in the U.S. from coast to coast is something that you don't get that same sort of feeling in most countries.
The U.S. is unique in the fact that you have roadways they span the country. You could go coast to coast, and that's what we did. We went from the Atlantic to the Gulf of Mexico, all the way to the Pacific.
You can see completely different types of climates, types of diversity in terms of culture and people, and with the U.S., just how expansive it is. That's really what you get, and I think that's why people love doing road trips, because they can get out and see parts of the country, meet people, experience new corners of the world, I guess you could say, that they wouldn't if they were just flying over.
Born in day one.
Well, day kind of two.
Day one.
Woo!
The whole thing started, I think, right around Christmas. Dustin called and said, I have this crazy idea. Let's drive a car across the country. It's a great way to prove to the public that EVs are not scary.
One day we said, wouldn't it be cool if? And a lot of times I think the best ideas come up that way. It was like, how do we really show customers the usability of this car, the practicality, how you can replace internal combustion gas car with an ID.4 very easily.
And so the idea was, let's take the ID.4 across the country. Let's prove that not only is it amazing in terms of its capability, its charging speed, its ability to drive across country or pretty much anywhere in the US right now with the Electrify America network, but let's also prove how capable the car is. Let's do a real road trip. Let's throw our gear in the back, put some camera equipment on the car, let's have some fun, let's drive, let's go on detours, let's do what you would do in a real road trip.
Nashville. We saw a little bit of everything. We went to New York City, we came down to DC. We were really on our own, on the open road, as you will. We covered over 7,000 miles in the car. This was not a race across the country. This was an adventure for us to go on to really show the capability of the car, and I think that's exactly what this will show. And we took a kind of an off-the-wall route. We didn't go just across the country the normal way. We went down, up and around, and down through Florida, then across through the southern part of the U.S. to really show everything. Driving the car in every climate, driving the car through most terrains that are available in the U.S., so mountains, deserts, hot weather, cold weather.
It was a very zigzag way to get across the country, but it was definitely the scenic route. We hit everything from a couple inches of snow in Chicago to 90 degrees in Texas to tornado warnings and torrential downpour in Tennessee to not a cloud in the sky in California. So we pretty much did everything. We did it all with our own gear in the car. We switched off driving. We used the car's onboard Wi-Fi to work because we didn't take days off to do this trip. So it was just an amazing road trip companion.
And we also had a lot of fun doing it too. We got to see a lot of sights, meet a lot of people, and that's what a road trip's all about. It's about that sort of freedom and to maybe do something that's a bit uncharted.
Life has only begun. Our feet were fashioned to run. Oh, and we'll go farther than we've been.
We saw a lot of the United States. I mean, almost half of the states in the U.S. we did on the trip, and it proved to be, just an amazing experience from both the car's capability standpoint and just us getting to know the car and what we spent the last couple years of our lives bringing to market.
We didn't always have a clear plan for this trip. We know where we wanted to go for the most part, but we didn't necessarily plan out our fast charging stops. We knew they were along the route and we'd stop when we need to. Really the biggest amount of planning that we had is our overnight stops. So when we wanted to stop at night, we made sure the hotels we stopped at had charging. But other than that, there wasn't a lot of planning really. It was like we would do anything else. We want to go on a road trip. We want to end up here. We're starting here. Let's get there. And while we're on our way, let's have some fun and check out some things on the way.
Yeah, there's a lot of towns that I probably wouldn't have gone to. Just it wouldn't have been a place that I would have driven to in essence, but we drove through them and we ended up stopping, spending time, and loving it. To me, that's the fun of the road trip, is meeting the people, learning about different cultures in different parts of the country, and just experiencing all of it, right? You can have a cup of coffee in New York with someone that you've never met, learn about their neighborhood, do the same thing in Mississippi or do the same thing in California, and you wouldn't do that necessarily if you were hopping on a plane and like going to the next place.
We played a game to try to figure out how to name the car. We went through lots of different names, but we decided to call her Wanda.
The thing that happened was that the 18 days went by really fast. It didn't feel like that at all. We were in a new hotel every night. We were in a new city every night, which is really interesting. To basically go on tour with the car was really neat. And we had some long days. We were driving the car sometimes 13, 14, 15 hours in a day. And we were doing that because we were filming the car in different places. We were going on some adventures. We were going on some detours. And then we always had to get to our stop for that night. We were prepared if the car were to blow a tire or have some things wrong with it, but it never had one thing, not even a warning light, anything.
The car had zero issues the whole time, which was awesome. We did, I think, 32 Electrify America stations. We charged at hotels every night. We never had any problems with the ID.4 whatsoever. We didn't have low tire pressure even anywhere along the trip. It was just a great road trip machine the whole way.
Oh, we're golden.
I think Todd and I are both over 6 feet tall. We're bigger guys, so sharing the car was actually still quite comfortable. I didn't feel like after I got out of the car every night that I was like totally like wrecked like after a long day.
It was just an amazing road trip companion, and I think the trip came from, hey, let's drive across country to prove that it can be done. And what it morphed into was this experience to show pretty much wherever you want to go in an EV, you can absolutely do it.
But it was a blast, and it was a lot of togetherness, 18 days. But in general, it was so fun, and we got to know each other even a little bit more.
As far as like the camaraderie on the trip, I think obviously the crew that we had with us was fantastic. It's just one of those things where you're stuck in a car and you just start talking about things and learning new things about the person that you're with is really great.
Everyone brings their own thing to the group. I think with Sandon, he was just somebody that was really fun, smart, cool to have on the trip. And when he wasn't there, it's like we were missing someone.
He always had like great one-liners, so he was fun on the radio between the camera car and us.
That area of the trip was sort of interesting. We went through some bad weather actually out in Nashville where we were in some tornado warning weather. The car performed awesome, and we had to drive through that. Todd definitely was always like, he was trying to keep everyone on schedule, which was good. So he was a bit like sort of the taskmaster. I would maybe always challenge the group to do something a little bit crazier.
Maybe this is a drone opportunity.
So really trying to talk everybody into maybe doing something a little bit more off the beaten path. And then Derek, or Zane as he's known, just brought a lot of humor to the trip. And he always knew how to capture a moment, which is important. It was his role, but he did a really good job.
It's a venti day.
It's a venti day. What do you want?
Orange juice.
Orange juice. And venti?
Biggest one you can find.
Yeah, it was all the sort of the riffing it, right? Savannah was a detour that we took because of a recommendation from one of the locals we met in Atlanta. That to me was the quintessential road trip moment, was being there. We had taken a detour. We had gone to a place that wasn't on our route. We all hung out on the beach, watched the sunset, and then we drove back into Savannah, had dinner, and I think we got to Jacksonville at like 1 a.m. or something like that. But it was worth it.
And that was the first time that we'd really gotten to see the ocean on the trip. And every time you're introduced to the ocean again, especially on a really nice day like we had, it's like, okay, now we're on the trip. So at that point, it really felt like now the adventure begins.
Going down to Marfa, Texas, I had no idea what Marfa was. Of course, Dustin, being the crazy guy that he is, has always wanted to go to Marfa his whole life.
Now we are in Marfa, Texas, a place I've always wanted to visit. It's another place that I always read about online, and it was so remote to get to. You've got to really want to get there if you're going to go. So getting to see part of Marfa and just really take the car to its limits, I think was really a fun time.
It was so secluded and dark out there once the sun set. It was amazing to be in that part of the country. And again, that's like exploring those parts of the road trip, or those little aspects of going on those detours that you don't plan, and so you don't expect. And I think that's what makes them great, is that you expected your day to go this way. it went a different way, and it was even better than you could have imagined. Joshua Tree was the same way. You can plan out, sort of as much as you want, but I think the fun part of it is that every day could be something different, right? And especially when you're doing it in an EV, with the car's onboard navigation, with all the driver aids that you have, we were never worried about not having charge.
I think that's what it ended up being, is a really fun time. We met great people. We had great conversations about what this product means for us and how it could affect them. We happened on some really neat places across the country, and we just had a good experience as a group. And I think it's one of those things, like I said, that it's going to be a memory forever.
Yeah, so everyone we met on the road were great. The VW owners in general were super excited to see the car.
There are a lot of VW fans out there, and to see their reaction to ID.4 and how excited they are was pretty inspiring.
Pretty much everyone we met had a VW story.
VW represents, for a lot of people, their first kind of memory of freedom and mobility. And I think that what we have with the ID.4 is that we've set up the car in a way that really fosters that mentality again, but for e-mobility.
And obviously we had it branded, right? We had all electric ID.4 on the side of it. People were really curious about what it was, and they were glad to see that there was such a good looking car that had such great capability and value, and that's why I think they were so drawn to it and drawn to what we were accomplishing with this trip.
People freaked out about the car. They loved it. I think that it was also, when you're out on the road, people are like, when does this come out? This is so cool. Does this come out in like in a few years? The car is out. You could go see one at your local VW dealer today. And I think there was a lot of excitement about that, and surprise actually that this car, which is pretty advanced and in many ways, it looks futuristic, where it almost looks like a concept car to some folks. And to know that this car's out on the road now, I think was surprising and really exciting to most folks.
There was a time in New Jersey when we ran into an air-cooled VW club that came to a charging station and all wanted to see the car. We took photos with them, hung out with them for a little while. In Tallahassee, Florida, we met this dance crew that was practicing in the Arts District, and they were just having fun. They loved the car. We ran into people in Texas, people in California, a really cool Westphalia bus. Him and his family, his wife and his 2 kids, they imported this bus from Germany, and it was awesome. Turns out he had a reservation on an ID.4. It was the first one he'd seen in the wild, and he was excited to see it. And like I said, every time we stopped at a charging station, inevitably someone was coming up to us. It was great to see the reaction when we'd say, yeah, this electric car here, we're driving this across the country. He'd be like, what are you talking about? You can't do that. Like, yeah, we can. Come check out the car. And everyone was very excited about the car, very excited about the trip. Just the fact that we were on an adventure that people always said, oh man, I'd love to do something like that.
We had many times we were just driving down the road and another EV would pull up beside us and give us a thumbs up or want us to pull over so they could see the car, or where are you going? What are you doing? So just a lot of excitement from those folks. And then just, regular folks, they would come out of the woodwork, it seemed, like everywhere we'd stop. It's just when you work on a product so long, and we work in a kind of enclosed environment, we've been working through the pandemic from home, to actually take it on the road and for people to really see it, pretty inspiring. This is one of those, watershed moments where, you may not be thinking about it now, but this is a tipping point for this technology. People really enjoy it. They want to understand how it works, and we're just out here proving how it is. And I think Volkswagen has a responsibility to lead in terms of automotive technology. It's one of the largest automakers in the world, so we can make a huge dent in helping when it comes to transportation.
ID.4 is probably the first long-range EV that has really hit all the marks in terms of its capability and its value. And I think we're going to start to see a lot more of those in the future.
And that's what we did with the road trip, is to really show, okay, price point's great. It can be within the price point of everyone. That's something that Volkswagen stood for a long time. Second thing is that it's very usable, it's practical, and you see that with the 250-mile range on the car that we drove. And then the third thing is that we came with solutions to help someone really move into an electric car as easy as possible with Electrify America. And we used that a ton on our road trip. I think what cars have meant to U.S. consumers for decades has been that freedom to be able to go anywhere that they want. We've got the roadways to do it, and you've got the products to do it too with cars. And what we wanted to do with ID.4 is to prove that you could do that with an EV now as well. I got my feet in, the water's nice.